Big games as of late has pretty much reigned over the popular genre. You may know them as Pet Simulator Death or maybe some other games. But what particular thing that make them successful? Are their games fun? Is it only for kids? There's a lot of previous entries that big games have made and I want to try them all out and see for myself whether big games live up to its name because they're big and they're successful. This video will be about reviewing some of the histories and active games, including dramas. They are older video games, but ever since Filter Enable has pretty much broken 90% of Roblox games, most of the previous projects became deprecated. However, people have recorded the old footage on YouTube and have made a scripted version or remastered the game with their own ideas. So most of my opinion and my reviews will be based on the remasters instead of the original. Anyway, Beyond Two Games, also known as Preston, is the head and the owner of BIG Games trademarks. Their game mostly consists of simplicity and a very addictive nature within the game's mechanic, and so I want to try them and critique whether it is good or not. But before we talk about the game, we need to talk about the oldest game and how it shaped big games to this day. Boss Battles 101 is a boss rush game that was first released by Preston on November 10, 2011. It's a game where you essentially fight bosses and try to survive. Judging from the game itself, the boss, as per usual, doesn't have any animation. I mean, it's 2011. People have to use whatever assets that was available at that time, and back then, people had to be creative on what they want to create. But nowadays, it's all about stupid cash grab and a vomit bomb thumbnail.
You can have cheeseburger.
The only notable difference is the wither, in which it does have animation but only goes in vertically. There's quite a variety of bosses in this game, which some are copyrighted. There's also a dodge meme in which the attack gives you a jump scare. There's even a player boss in which this guy has an Adventure Time t-shirt. Each time a boss defeated, the sound effect that were used is from Star Wars Darth Vader's famous quote. And after that, a Harlem Shake plays. Yeah, it's 2011. For some reason, the laser gun does a ton of damage against bosses, and according to the avatar, I can tell that these packages are used as armor in this game. Limited Tycoon. This game released in New Year of January 1st, 2012. The game is essentially a limited clicker game in which if you click, you get more fake Robux, and then you purchase those limited with fake Robux. I think it's a social hub game where people get to brag about their non-existent dominance because I don't think there's any gameplay here anyway. Guest Defense 1. This game released on May 9, 2014. It's a game where you fend off the guests when destroying the statue. Not too dissimilar towards Defend the Statue, there's a rescripted version made by NKM9 that rescripts the whole game to be playable again. The game is pretty much a wave-based survival and it's boring at best. I mean, you got sword fighting and you got to kill guests and you got upgrades and stuff. It was an alright game, but back then people in Roblox had to be resourceful. They take the limitation as a challenge. Whenever there is something new on the front page, it will be seen as one of the greatest inventions. From this kind of game to where we can literally replicate a high quality game. Fortunately, a lot of people still love the old Roblox look because Roblox never understands that outside matters a lot more than a stupid realistic humanoid character. Not to mention, R6 is getting deprecated, in which it won't receive any updates other than just bug fixes and wants to integrate R15 in R6. Anyway, as I was speaking a lot of nonsense back there, the game for its time is alright, but I think it's much more fun playing with people in this game than playing alone in this game. But since this game is dead, you'll be lucky to find someone that's gonna carry you. At the start of the game, you can see a text on top of it calling stupid kids that don't understand the game and giving it thumbs down, and to be honest,
if those kids could read, they'd be very upset.
You basically go out and kill some guests in this game. Each time you kill a guest, you always get a coin. There's a shop where you can spend your coins in this game. You can purchase armor, sword, or magic staff, and in which this magic staff itself is expensive due to primarily range. There are multiple variations of guests in this game, such as 1.0, 2.0, heavy, or the explosive. And there are many more. This game is actually difficult if you try to solo in this game because without anyone carrying you in this game or playing without a game pass, it's pretty much a lost cause. And I totally understand why people would dislike this game because the game itself is not balanced and therefore requires a strenuous grind in order to beat this game, in which I did in 6 AM in the morning. Yes, the game tracks your computer time, so yeah, you can see my suffering that I had to record this in the morning. While playing with others, it's an alright game, although grinding this game might not be fun, but throughout the wave you get more coins. coins. You do get coins from killing, however, but all enemies do give the same amount of money no matter how difficult the enemy may be. As per capita, there are also bosses, Guess 1337 and Guess 1337 Zombified, Yin and Yang, and finally Kronos. As I was reading the scripts and making the scripts, I realized that maybe past Guess 1337 Zombified, there's literally no Yin Yang or Kronos. I don't think in the original there will be Yin Yang boss because I tried to look for the footage, but so far I think it's only like wave 20 and that's it. The only extra thing about the bosses is that there's a dialogue when you reach the boss wave. The boss will actually comment about the player owning an invincibility pass in which the invincibility is disabled during boss fights. So yeah, you can't cheese it.
Oh my god.
Right into the screen. Scam.
They played us.
Although it's not really part of the original game, but credit where it's due. And finally, you meet Kronos. There's a lot of bosses named Kronos, just putting it out there. The Blood just want to invade Roblox with evil guests, and that's all about their introduction and once a final onslaught. The boss has 250k HP. Your boy's choice of methods will be luring the boss away from the statue. And it is also recommended if you have any players or friends to play with you to begin with, because this boss packs a punch. Once you beat it, you get an opposite ending of what happens if you fail, and you'll be greeted with green screen and you win text. Congrats, you saved Roblox. What's next? Make It Rain Roblox Edition. I actually never played it or ever heard it, but judging from the Wikipedia, there's a real game that was based on a mobile game in which essentially it's some kind of tapping tycoon game. There's actually no footage that is available for this game, and there's an actual video of advertisement for the real game.
Oh, you gonna beat this. Oh! Money, 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 money.
I know, you're making it rain, right, baby? Make it rain.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, make it a rain. Make it a rain.
Destroy everything. Again, no records on YouTube, but let's just assume it's one of those games that has been recreated over time and you basically destroy everything just like the title says. Guess Defense 2. Now this is the sequel of the anticipated series from Guess Defense 1. Someone literally uploaded a 4 hours of footage separated on each part, and oh boy, I'm just gonna explain something that'll fit the narrative or maybe something cool that I found along the way. I really like how the shop looked back then. It literally looked like a typical Flash game shop, and it does capture that feeling considering that this game is from 2014. There are armors and weapons in this game. Instead of giving you a sword at the start of the game, you're given a fisticuff as a weapon to beat up guests. Oh, and did you know before big games there were sports studios? You matchmake the game, waiting for the players to join the lobby, and then you start the game and you'll be greeted with Cruelty Squad HUD. The premise of the game itself is relatively the same, with the minus that you can no longer spawn an NPC soldier to help you out in the battle anymore. One thing that I don't like is that you have to leave the game if you want to change your weapon. Like, there's no in-game shops during the match, and it doesn't seem like there are people that can join during the match. So if somebody left the game, probably due to connection, I think you might as well start a new run unlike the previous entries. Essentially, it's like the worst version of Guess Defense 1. There are multiple maps and game modes in this game, in which there are maps based on the difficulty, and the game mode literally having a PvP, defense, or impossible. Throughout the video, it literally took this guy 1 hour just to get a weapon in this game, because the fisticuff doesn't do a lot of damage, and not to mention the reward for killing a guest in this game is abysmal. Well, if you play on defense mode that is, and not an impossible. PvP mode is, well, PvP. It doesn't have any guests in it aside players versus players. Well, you can decide on the balancing of this game though. The first 10 ways of the boss, you'll be greeted with a guest 03, in which the guest is a wizard and has this cool effects. And so far, the only footage I've seen in order to beat this guy was locking him in the chair, in which the boss can never get off from. After defeating the boss, the end.
That's it? That's the last episode?
And that's it about Guess Defense 2. Destruction Run. Think of it as Dragon Escape if you still remember Mineplex minigames from Minecraft, or you watch some YouTuber that played it. Oh god. Essentially, you are trying to reach the end with the platform behind you exploding. There are some obstacles that you have to do and you have to jump across or, you know, die. And that's pretty much it. Guess Quest Online. Guess Quest Online is a top-down dungeon crawler RPG game. The game features the guest as the enemy in this game, hence the title for the game itself. There's been a restoration to the game, but sadly the restored version has been privatized shut. The version that I'm playing right now is Revoked. There might be some differences, but I think the developer tried to make this game as original as possible. For starters, you enter the dungeon called Pandemonium Asylum and go around and kill the guests, which are assumed to be the patients. Killing a guest will drop a random loot and sometimes generally a better loot. The game itself is quite addictive as you pretty much much kill gas and get better equipment as you continue to grind. There are 4 attributes on which stat you want to spend it on. Usually I go for the damage one because during the early game, the game doesn't really give you a better option for the ranged weapon until you finally manage to get past the boss and you can obtain a superior ranged weapon that are dropped by the enemy in the second floor. Once you reach level 15, you can teleport to a town where you can buy a better gear than the ones that are dropped in the dungeon. Sadly though, I don't think you can actually sell any of the items that you have collected so far. So evidently, you have to drop some of the stuff that you don't really need anymore. There are 3 shops that you can visit in the old town: potion sellers, armor shops, and weapon shops. There are some NPCs that you can't interact with, and there are some portals that lead to somewhere at least. Once you get the good stuff, you can try to beat the boss in this game. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, there's a dodge roll mechanic in this game, in which the game gives you a small invincibility to dodge the enemy attacks. You can go figure what this reference is about. If you happen to die, you can respawn, but if you return to the boss again, the health doesn't replenish, in which you can take it as many tries as you want. However, you need to be wary of other players that might potentially steal your kills. But I guess that's pretty much the game that is available to this. There are some other stuff, but I doubt they were a thing in the original game. There are PvP of course, and some high level raids, but yeah, that's it. Limited Tycoon 2. Same premise as the previous entries. You click Robux and get whatever items that you wanna get. The same as usual. Outnumbered. This game is lost in history and I could not try to find any resemblance or footage based on this game. I mean, it has pretty low visits and I doubt anyone will record the footage. King Clash. Okay, this concept similar to what Silent Assassin, even though the game was released 3 years prior before Silent Assassin became a thing. Essentially, there is a king, gods, and an assassin. The assassin will attempt to assassinate the king while the gods attempt to stop the assassination. Even though the game supposedly take place in medieval times, guns were present in 50,000s. So yeah, it's Silent Assassin if you ever played it, except that everyone has a gun, minus the king of course. Gears Online RPG. Alright, so this game follows similar premises with Gas Quest Online, minus the top-down view. It's essentially a dungeon crawler game, again, but you also have fishing! The version I'm currently playing is a reverse version, so again, as per usual, there might be some differences. The only difference in this game is that this game doesn't have any skill points anymore once you level up. It's literally straight up grinding for materials and then you equip it. There's also an online marketplace, considering that this game is literally dead, there's no one selling anything. Oh yeah, in case if you really miss the Gas Quest top-down view, you can enable it on the settings. But why would you want to do that when you can literally see it everywhere? Well, what happens if you happen to stumble upon an enemy that is stronger than you? You're pretty much handicapping yourself if that's the case. Oh, and I encountered a bug. It also reminds me of top-down view in GTA 3. Literally almost nobody uses that feature because prior to that game was GTA 2, in which the game is a top-down view.
Shit. Oh, I didn't even realize that was happening. No, I just bought all those guns! Job complete!
Grinding in this game is actually quite tedious. One of the roadblocks is when you reach the second area and the level requirement spikes, and all I ever did was chasing the enemy and attacking them through the wall because they can't reach me. And if you want to play fair and square, I'd say good luck because the rarity of the enemy in this dungeon doesn't depend on which area. Instead, it depends on your luck and how often higher enemies are going to spawn. Unlike Gas Quest Online, in which you can find specific enemies that you want to farm on. Because the higher level enemies drop a very good loot compared to the predecessor. And trust me, using this method, you're gonna have to spend a lot of time just to get a single equipment that is a bit better. To add more salt in the wounds, each time you kill an enemy, it doesn't guarantee a drop. In which if you found a random enemy, you defeated it, you ended up with nothing, tough luck. Oh, and if you fall into the dungeon and you die, you have to go all the way again just to get where you want to be. At first, there's fishing in this game, but I don't even know where you even get this fishing rod until you find the fish thief, in which the enemy spawns rarely. So yeah, that's about this game, honestly. There are some stuff such as the faction, in which it only sells faction related items shops, not the guild or something similar. It has a skill for some reason, but other than that, I think it's useless. There's also an Omega boss raid in which the boss is level 200, and if you try to fight the boss, you might as well just reset character. And that's Gears Online. Giant Survival. Now, I know there's a remaster and remake of this game, but don't worry, I'll talk about it in this video. As far as I know, there's literally no older remakes of this game again. I have to rely on on YouTube Let's Play. In Giant Survival, you're basically fighting against giants. You know, Goliath and David, or any Juggernaut mode. It's not too dissimilar from the first game, Boss Battles 101. The game is literally you shoot big men will destroy, big men will kill, people survive. Each time you damage a boss, you always earn money, and the better the weapon is, the more money it gives. There are some maps, of course, and the giants destroy the buildings, and also there's motorcycle for some reason, and players can actually become giants if they get their turn, and I guess that's about it, to be honest. There's also the sequel in which instead of your own avatar, you are playing as an unturned player model instead. Disaster Dome. I'm surprised this was the only game that Preston left it open. Anywho, Disaster Dome is a game that I used to play a lot. The game plays similarly like Natural Survival Disaster, except with some few gimmicks to make it at least very distinctive from the game. Even the game has balloons in which you can purchase for an egregious price. Well, at least Preston hasn't changed a bit. There are a total of 6 disasters in this game, as far as I know, and most of them are quite damn hard. Especially when most of the disasters are always locked onto you, which is unfair. Thunderstorms are alright, but the chance of you getting struck is very high, which is unfair to say the least. The floor is lava is a different story, although it may be easier because you don't have to stand on the ground. Well, what about when there's no platform to stand on? How are you gonna survive that one? Meteors are a bit worse because of the explosion that can instantly kill you, especially when they got target locked onto any players.
Get the cat! Get the cat! Come on, keep going! Move! You made it.
UFO on the other hand is a bit easier. You can just run amok until UFO decide to fire an instantaneous red laser beam. Tornado is, I'd say, far easier in terms of it, although it may also have the hidden lock on players, which is, I do see the tornado is chasing after a player, which again is unfair. There's also a cool looking sea monster that spawns beneath the water. It shoots fireball to destroy the building, but again, a f***ing auto lock attack. Gee, thanks. Then a f***ing dragon, but this one is pathetically easy. I just stood here like it's nothing. Earthquake is, well, one of the worst I'd say. It flung me off the map and you couldn't even control the movement at all. And I guess that's all the disaster. The dev don't really put updates in this game anymore, so yeah. If you win, you get 30 gems, which isn't a lot considering how expensive some of the gear in this game are. And if you win consecutively, you get double the amount, which is pretty good. If you can survive, that is. There's also a fall damage in this game once the round starts, so yeah. Be careful with that. The game is pretty lackluster. Well, considering the game no longer receives updates, it can be fun to play with your friends if you got nothing else to do. And that's pretty much all the old games that Preston have made. There are so many games that I probably won't be able to fit in this video, and a lot of games are lost media and will probably be forgotten. There's this game called Fortress or Fortress that looked like some kind of rushed gameplay, judging from the footage alone. The game was never heard ever again after the update. There was also another game called Pirate's Life. The game has some screenshots and even the logo itself, but never saw the light of day and was overshadowed by Disaster Dome. You can imagine how it felt for the guy that made the title only for it to be scrapped. There's also a new game in what it seems like to be like an FPS game. Even Preston tries to suggest to call it Arsenal, although it really didn't happen. Instead, the main idea got scrapped and replaced with Knife Royale. Preston teased the new UI, in which if you pay attention to the UI compared to the teased gun animation, you can actually see Preston reused the same hotbar from the game. The game was finally released on February 23rd, 2018. For the gameplay, well, it's literally a battle royale with knives. It was definitely a genre defining back in 2018, you know, PUBG and Fortnite. After that, Preston finally released one of his first similar games that ever existed, something that has become a staple within the Roblox experience. It was something that has followed the trend over the years. It's called Metal Detecting Simulator. What? You thought it's gonna be Pet Simulator? No, the game hadn't come out yet. Well, it's Metal Detecting Simulator. I still remember that stupid sand collecting game where you sell those stupid sand, and I can't believe people will spend so much time in this stupid game. And now, Preston is literally testing the water. He even admits it as a mini project in which we all know the game that you guys love will be made. The side project got so popular to the point it got an update. Instead of a mini project, it became a full project. And as for the game, you collect stupid stuff, you sell stupid stuff, you upgrade stupid stuff, and make sure you never break break that insanity cycle ever again. But then, on May 9, 2018, Preston teased one of his projects in which we can see the block cat following Preston. Then, on June 2nd, Preston reveals the page art and finally released in August 4th, 2018. The game received 50k players on launch, which is an insane milestone. But I guess this is also where we end the story now. We're going onwards to take a look at the game, and yeah, okay, just play the cool outro now. Probably, if not, one of the weakest entries in this game. It's literally a game where you just collect coins mindlessly as if you got nothing else better to do. It's almost the equivalent of terrible ads, except that this game literally popularized the entire genre. One of the aspects that you always see in our simulator is the lengthy maps with different biomes. It's literally a direct comparison that has been overdone too many times. The gameplay itself is literally nothing worth talking about. Essentially, you just use your pet as a method to earn money in order to collect coins. Somehow, you need a pet just to grab coins. By the way, don't do that in real life. That's animal abuse. Then you can use the currency to buy more pets that do more numbers than previous pets. Why do mammals breed out of eggs?
Cheeto.
I mean, this whole game doesn't make sense anyway. The detail on the environment is also the weakest. It's literally a flat structure and some basic building skills. As per usual, the game is riddled with game pass, even with the most mundane feature. And I'ma be real with you, I tried to look for every nook and cranny and there's really nothing worth to talk about. I mean, yeah, you got space, woohoo! Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Despite the game being mediocre, it actually accumulated 2-time Bloxy Awards 2018, being the mobile game of the year. And there's literally no second award unless Preston literally awarding himself. And because of the massive success Preston has made throughout the popularity, surely the next thing that he will make is a sequel, right? Or does he? Build and Survive is a build/survival game. Don't get confused with the auto predecessor, where you build almost anything and fend off horde of enemies that are coming in your way to eliminate you. Your only choice of weapon in this game is a generic cartoon laser gun. Due to the lack of variety of the weapon, the game mixes up by making your shots unique, such as beam, laser, quad shot, heal, fast fire, and every generic power-up you can think of. For free players, you can only equip up to 2 upgrades, but if you're willing to spend a hefty $3, you can unlock a slot, one at a time. Never change, big games, never change. And they never change, alright? You can also unlock new skins every time you reach a certain level, since I've played this quite long ago. Although I didn't play this that much, thank god, the game was rather lacking in content. Here's the premise of the game. You pretty much build and then survive, like in a literal sense. Despite the game lacking of game mode, the game provides special rounds to freshen up the game, in which the special rounds only spawn on certain mobs. It's just a plain generic grass tile map with the wall covered up by the hills, and that's the only map that you're going to play. There are no unique biomes or level to make up the mediocrity. It's just this map and the purple corruption from Terraria. Speaking of corruption, at least there are a variety of enemies, which is quite shocking due to the game's lack of variety for the players to mess around with. You got zombies, skeleton, mechas, even bigger mechas, and robot night bombers. Although it isn't many, the zombies are just your typical everyday zombies. They primarily focus on destroying an object that the players have built. The skeleton is basically a Clash of Clans skeleton. They both throw bombs and they're both skeleton. Enough said. The mechas are just mechas. They work like zombies, except they're a bit faster. And even bigger mechas works like zombies, but with even bigger HP pool. Then this football looking guy is basically a self-destruct bomber.
I'm about to blow.
Also, for some reason, their pattern is a bit janky, assuming the AI is really old and weren't up to date.
AI!
Each time a wave ended, a shop appeared from the sky as it were God's second visit on Earth. Oh, and I don't mean Preston to be God himself. He mainly sells you the upgrade, you know, the one that I'm talking about previously? Yeah, those can be quite expensive, and usually those stars indicate the tier of the upgrade. The higher the stars, the better they are. Although some upgrades do magic stuff and some do lower your damage, like fire and ice for example. Speaking of weapon damage, yeah, the enemies in the game are bullet sponge hell. I wish there was some automatic firing, but I guess developing arthritis is a part of experience. Here's a tip if you really hate tapping. I recommend equipping burst shots. This thing is a godsend. Despite only 3 stars, pair it with beam or anything that does only huge damage, or just use auto clicker instead. After intermission is over, the shop and Preston himself gets dragged into the depths of hell to be never seen again. I guess that's what happened to all the NFT bros. Anyway, I don't hate him. As per title says, the building in this game is actually rather fun. I really like the idea of building to survive. It reminded me of RVVZ's Creeper Chaos. Yeah, remember that game before it was taken down? Me neither. Anyway, the game is back and it's called Creature Chaos. Because you have infinite resource to build anything you want, I ended up building a tower and a platform, and it is super fun seeing this enemy is trying to take you down by destroying the pillar that people have made. And I really wish we could have gotten more out of it, like, you know, maybe you can build a trap where you can trick enemies by making them walk into a saw, something like Orcs Must Die. That would have been very addicting. Sadly, the game is pretty much abandoned, so pretty much we'll never get any update in this game anyway. The problem within this game will be the replayability. Once you have everything at the shop, you literally don't have any use with the money anymore. If anything, this game could borrow some of the roguelike games mechanic. Take example on games like Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon. In Binding of Isaac, you got these tears that you can fire at the enemy, and throughout the game, you can find some of the upgrades that allows you to make your tears much more stronger. And if Build to Survive utilizes this game will have infinite replayability, forcing players on random build each time they play, instead of owning the upgrades and then just going with the meta. And maybe some bosses too, you know, in case if we survive like 5th wave or something, similar like Survive the Disaster 2, and we defeat the boss, the level changes to freshen up the gameplay a little bit, and that would have been pretty cool. Despite the game lacking in content, the game still garners around 400 players, which is not bad, but compared to standard nowadays, I highly doubt that's a success from Preston's point of view. And that's pretty much about this game. At the time when Build and Survive was released on May 2nd, 2019, Preston was currently working on Pet Simulator 2 while focusing on the side project. The side project in which Build and Survive and some of the games that I will reveal later. While Pet Simulator 2 is currently in the development, there were a plethora of side games that Preston and his team were currently working on while still teasing one of his biggest anticipation of the game. While the game still hasn't been released yet, one of the games they push is Big Paintball. What can I say? It's paintball. It's nothing big or small. It's just a paintball, honestly. The game definitely took inspiration from the oldest game known to mankind, paintball. There have been many variations of paintball, and Big Paintball is definitely not an exception. I never grew up with Roblox paintball myself. Again, I was more of a Flash guy, and maybe some Korean FPS games too. Anyway, in Big Paintball, you can see this whole board of arsenal. It's definitely much more than a stupid cartoon laser gun, but unfortunately, you have to grind most of it. Well, aside from the fact that every weapon does the same damage. Some weapons do have a longer velocity, and some weapons like an SMG have a higher fire rate. The only thing that you're gonna fight isn't the player itself, but the paintball velocity that you need to go fight against. Because every weapon does the same damage, most of the time I couldn't tell if the players were cheating. Well, ever since Snaps got shut down and stopped working with Roblox, I don't think there are any exploiters nowadays.
The synapses in our brains go dark little by little. You forget where you're from, who you are.
Regardless, there are a total of 13 maps in the game. 6 for the team deathmatch, 5 for free-for-all, 2 King of the Hill, and 1 is GTA Online Bad Sport Lobby. Most of the maps are uniquely designed that has its own team. Suijin, for example, where it's a Japanese team maps which only fits free-for-all. For team deathmatch, you get a map where there's always 2 opposing colors to battle out in the battlefield. As for King of the Hill, where you go to the center of the map where you're pretty much getting sniped from their position. Also, if you got sweaty in this game, you can rack up kill streaks like every typical Call of Duty multiplayer series. Instead of kill streaks to activate the power-ups, you only need kills. For 5 kills, you can basically ping the entire area to reveal nearby enemies, but you only get 3 pings per each use. For 10 kills, you can place a not so accurate turret, but they do a great job to target unaware players or just in close range in general. 15 kills allows you to have a drone similar to a turret, but now it's portable and will watch your back. But in return, people can see your drone, which pretty much can blur cover, and they can be pretty advantageous, like this one I'm showing you. And if you can rack up to 100 kills in a single match, you can actually nuke the whole map, but doesn't end the match entirely, so that's a bummer. There are also other kill streaks on the menu, but I'm not spending more time in this game. Speaking of the kill streaks, I don't know what happened to this game, but this game perfectly reenacts the Vietnam War as a US soldier. Because every time I respawn, I always die to the mini sentries that are hiding behind the bush. And oftentimes, I just don't trust these bushes. And not to mention, oftentimes, these sentries make the game much messier. You always inevitably die to these sentries. There's these sentries that are armored, like what can I do to counteract it? It fires so much faster than a regular sentry, and not to mention it is way more beefier too. Mini sentries, I understand, they're small, but damn, this game is a mess. I often see players just standing and shooting in the line, like that's also a tactic. There's a good reason why most video games have reloading mechanics so you don't get this very annoying tactic. Overall, despite having this not so simple paintball game, I totally enjoy it. Though the requirement for grinding is pretty insane, which turns me off whenever achieving better weapons. There's really no incentive for me to pursue better weapons, even if they're better. Big paintballs to this day is still quite popular and being played by tons of kids who couldn't run Phantom Forces. After the release of Big Paintball, a few weeks later, Preston released Giant Survival Remastered. It's Giant Survival. As you may know from the previous entry, Giant Survival is a boss rush game where you're trapped inside a giant glass box while defeating the giant. And I remember when Rubenstein exposed people who are into giants on Twitter. What you basically do, well, you shoot the boss. You're equipped with a crossbow as your first main weapon, and this time you don't really have to tap to shoot anymore. There are a total of 20 weapons, including 3 game pass that you can buy and unlock in this game. Although it isn't much, but it's way better than Build and Survive as you only have one weapon in the game. Okay, enough about shitting on Build and Survive. I'm sorry. But you now have gears which really help you traverse the map much faster. But why would you even buy a gravity coil? Being on the roof isn't really safe as the boss can pretty much decimate through the buildings. Actually, you can't even outrun the boss with speed coil anyway. Well, despite the game looking mediocre, the game is quite addicting. You see this money pops up each time you damage the boss, and the level keeps popping up on your screen, and you can't turn it off, by the way. The yellow dollar sign is an indicator for money, if that wasn't obvious. It gives you 1,000 per pickup, and they're quite useful to get better weapons early in the game, and people don't seem to be able to pick it up other than you, so take your time before you march towards your doom. Well, I think this game is more lenient toward casual players or any mobile players who don't own consoles or personal computers. It's pretty easy to play and doesn't require skill at all. All you ever need is just stay back and camp. There are a total of 6 maps in this game. They're pretty standard and don't provide any challenges aside from more variety, I guess. But unfortunately, this game does not have any player boss unlike the previous entry. There is a special round in which it spawns a clone of a player instead of being able to play as the boss. Something about not being able to play as a boss feels like I'm missing out on one of the integral features that was part of the game, which feels like a downgrade compared to the previous entry. If anything, I may have to call it demastered instead of remastered. So yeah, that's a dud. The game's for casuals. Not much else to say, is there? Although, I've experienced 2 bugs in this game, and one of them is a game-breaking bugs. One of the bugs that's a bit harmless though is the shrinking boss. There's this dodge boss that's pretty much downscaled to smithereens, and there's also a player's boss in which I died due to invisible boss hitbox. And the game-breaking part is when you get picked up by the giants, essentially rendering you soft locked and you couldn't move at all. To bring more salt in the wood, you couldn't even reset in this game. Even if the match ended, I still can't move at all. So yeah, that's pretty much about Giant Survival. Doubt this bug's gonna be fixed anyway. And after the release of Giant Survival Demastered, a few weeks later, Pet Simulator 2 announced its release date while announcing the Big Paintball update. And after that, Pet Simulator 2 is out. Yay? Pet Simulator 2 is a highly acclaimed and successful series, and that was a joke. The game was acclaimed to be one of the worst sequels. I'm not sure how that happens. Well, you collect coins. What's not so fun about that? Well, the first problem majority players are experiencing is that the world is locked behind a VIP, and you can honestly see the disdain of the players that do not want to fork over the money. I mean, locking the world behind VIP? Surely that the world is something special, right? I mean, how much does it cost? Holy Mother of God. Yeah, I can honestly see why people are mad. Oh wait, what is this? Oh, a tweet from Preston years ago before Pet Simulator 2 release. Game passes suck, that's why in Pet Simulator 2, you'll instead unlock them for free as upgrades just by playing. Hashtag no pay to win. Wow, Preston surely is generous, but how is he gonna get all that money back? Surely at some point, Preston will have to resort to pay to win, right? Big Games responded to Terabyte Games saying that it's only for cosmetic and quality of life without giving advantages, ensuring that our players have the same experiences? You guys already know Preston is not the man of the word, but hey, the update mitigates it by having VIP drops. I actually don't know how the VIP drops mechanic works, assuming it just drops on your head or something, I don't know. But unfortunately, the game is dead on arrival. The game came with a minor problem. People already have their level maxed out, and the new world is VIP only, as I mentioned earlier. However, if you ever bought any game passes from Pet Simulator 1, even if you bought VIP game pass or anything expensive, you only get a few days of VIP depending on how much you spent on the first game. However, there's a guy who spent 5,000 Robux and he didn't get permanent. Instead, the person in question only gets 4 days of VIP. That's how much Preston is giving back to you, by the way. People at this point are over and people are just comparing the original game to the sequels. Trading update got released, but oh my god, it is locked behind the VIP. I mean that people just don't beg, but that also means bad reception since kids love begging. After the release of the Volcano update, the reception is fairly positive, but people continue to beg for auto collect or, you know, giving more perks for the VIP users. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, you also get a legendary Phoenix pet if you buy VIP, so wonder what happened to that statement. And that's it. That's the update, no more. Preston literally gave up on the game and went back focusing on big paintball because it is more successful than his recent games back in 2020. Well, enough about dramas and histories. How's Pet Simulator 2? The game premise is the same as the previous entry, except that you don't automatically collect anymore. You have to click on the drop to collect coins, unlike the first game in which it was automatic. I do kinda like the map design here. It's so different from the last iteration, and it does look like an improvement. Again, as per usual, the gameplay follows the same structure as the previous one. You collect more coins until you finally hatches another egg. Also, the white dot that you're supposed to press is now gone, so I guess it's a step down for the gameplay. Thanks to the great use of sound effects, collecting coins just never felt that great. It felt rather therapeutic. As for progressions, it's pretty awful, I'd say. It's a major slog in this game. First thing first is that you only have one egg that you can hatch, and there are 9 different pets that you can obtain. Literally 5 out of these pets are the one that you really want, because 4 of these pets literally have the same damage output.
Ew!
So you only get 6% chance or lower to be able to get these pets. But for some random chances, you can also get the same pet that has higher base stats than the previous one, so it's such a weird mechanic. Now combine that with a horrendously time-wasting grind with this awful pet, you start to realize Preston is literally just padding out his game instead of, you know, actual content. While Pet Simulator 1 has a lot of pets, and they're varied depending on how many gates that you've unlocked. At least it is way straightforward, but hey, instead of using coins to unlock a new area, you need to reach specific level, which means more grinding. And it doesn't get better in the second world anyway, because you'll still be grinding. The game also introduced an upgrade system. Well, you can't upgrade it, but more of an accomplishment rewards. What essentially does is that you're given a goal to reach a certain goal in order to unlock an upgrade, which can greatly help you to get you more coins much faster, and hell, maybe a hoverboard. Either way, yeah, I'm not grinding this game. I would rather play Genshin Impact over Pet Simulator 2 all day. After the most successfully failed task game, Preston ran away after like 3 updates and decided to make another game instead of focusing on Pet Simulator 2. The game in question is My Bakery, which is a game about bakery. The game is basically a simulator under the guise of not simulator, because at that time people are pretty much done with the simulator games, and I'm gonna be real with you, I was also anticipating this game too. But then I realized it was made by Big Games, which doesn't call me surprise. Unfortunately, the game is not called My Bakery. The game was renamed to My Restaurant, and the game was finally released on June 26, 2020. My Restaurant is a simulator game where you run your own restaurant. You cook the food and serve the customer. It may look fun on paper, but later in the game, you start to realize that you don't really need to do it anymore. Everything just becomes autonomous, and there's really not much to do here besides waiting and see your profit racks up very, very slowly. That's the whole gameplay, and I wish I was nitpicking, but I'm not. You might as well fill your entire restaurant full of chairs and tables, because there is no benefit in putting decorations, except for decorations that attract people like the princess, Superman, or YouTuber. Some decorations also affect the customer, such as wearing sombrero if you have a cacti plant. Again, no benefit. Aside from running a restaurant by yourself, you can hire the employees to help you run your restaurant much faster. They have a leveling system in which I don't really know what they do. Even the wiki itself doesn't have a category for it, but I guess they do move faster. But that's pretty much it. You only get to hire them and they do your job immediately. There's literally no trade-offs to make it very interesting. Like, you know, some catcher can be able to charm people to give out more cash, or be able to carry 2 foods instead of 1, but the drawbacks will be the speed or etc. You know, variety. At least try to make something interesting, Preston. Your game is literally called out as Restaurant Tycoon 2, but at home. When compared to this game, the cooking mechanic itself is dumbed down. I mean, everything is dumbed down, and at least for once, I agree with people on Twitter. I get this game is a free-to-play, but why would I want to play this when there are other free-to-play games that offer much better experiences? Well, no hate to the developers, and I think they did a splendid job for their work and based on the project Preston gave them. Preston added the market in my restaurant where you can sell the item on the marketplace for an exorbitant price depending on the items, meaning that Preston can just shut down any purchases, making a high demand on any item, which skyrocketing the price, leaving majority of the players that hadn't bought this supposedly rare furnitures before the update rolls out. And you can literally see the negative responses here. Each time an update drops, Preston always makes a specific furniture limited, so anyone that did not participate wouldn't be able to get it. But because it is a marketplace, someone decided to ruin it. On August 17, 2020, the person in question, Tough, managed to purchase expensive items in the market by pumping trillions of cash into the game by hacking, and immediately start duping the Eternal statue and sold it at an economically cheap price, which in turn crashed the market. The developer took a notice on it, but was fixed later, and anyone that had bought it on cheaper price gets replaced with the cardboard Eternal statue. But despite all the effort, the damage had already been done. Soon, the Eternal statue was finally removed from the market. But 2 years later, August 8, 2022, someone decided to give out trillions of cash to other players in the game, while the people that were given trillions of cash decide to hyperinflate the market by buying anything that is expensive. It lasted around 2 days before the global market shut down temporarily. Even after reopen, the prices on the market are still inflated by a large margin. Soon, when the Alien update rolls out, the marketplace was finally deprecated and won't make a return ever again. There are also recipes in this game. You unlock them by leveling up in this game, and the only way to level up is to serve as many customers as possible. There are no preferences based on the customer or popularity, nor can you change the price, but let's not ignore the fact that a piece of bread costs $43 and the whole chicken is only $35, and a chicken leg that costs $57. I don't get how the economy runs in this universe, but one thing for sure, I'd rather get a sandwich that costs $15 rather than an overpriced piece of bread that I have no idea how people are willingly paying for it. There's also a list of customers showing how many times they visit your store. They got no descriptions aside from special characters, again a big nothing burger, and then there's a furniture store in which you can buy dining tables or kitchenware. There are a lot of appliances in this game. The more expensive some of the appliances are, the faster they cook. As usual, some of the categories in the shop allow you to attract some special customers. And oh, you really want to attract special customers because the amount of money you get from serving them is exorbitant, and they don't call it special for nothing. Decorating in this game is also fun too, but that's all I can say about the edit mode. There's also exclusive tabs, which everything here costs Robux. You can buy exclusive items that you won't be able to get from playing normally, and you can also invite customers with Robux. As per usual, press the never-ending avarice. How many times have I mentioned his greediness? Aside from your own restaurant, there are also a shop that has been replaced. It sells some of the premium items or just completely egregious price that you will have to spend money on this game or spend quarter of your lifespan just to unlock some of these. In case if you think it's painful to gain money in this game, there's also another solution to gain money in this game. Goals. It's basically a quest to buy things, and that it doesn't really give you as much money from completing those, so they're pretty much a waste of time. For example, the mission asked me to buy a dishwasher, however, the return is only $200, and if you compare that to the actual price of the dishwasher, it will be a net negative as it would not cover the stuff that you're purchasing. The sink, however, is the cheapest one, but technically it's not a dishwasher. Second floor is probably the worst one. You only get $400 for purchasing, yeah. There's also a trading feature in this game, basically exchanging furnitures or flexing the item that you own. You can also visit a trading plaza where people trade stuff in this game. Basically everyone here is trading for paid Robux items, so yeah, you see where this is going. You can see the quote all on the screen and some podiums to show how much time a person has wasted. Overall, My Restaurant is a rather chill and fun game, I'd say. Well, fun as in to see how much money you rack up tomorrow by going to sleep and turning on auto clickers and seeing your next results in the morning. Yeah, that's how much fun this game is. Not to mention the very addictive nature of sound design. Preston never fails. You can even hear the meeting. So yeah, that's about it. By my humble opinion, Restaurant Tycoon 2 is better.
Are these the world's most crispy fries? Let's find out.
What do you know? It's the same formula that I've explained before. It's the same two games that don't even try to reinvent the wheel. It's like Preston already found the true formula for his secret Krabby Patty, and honestly, I'm proud of him, and I really got nothing else to say about his game other than complaining that it's the same game. I just kinda wanna rant this a little bit. Big games. I'm not sure if it's big at all. Sure, you have a massive audience and a big player base, but your game sucks. But you don't have to listen to that, and I'm envious. There are a lot of games that deserve the attention out there, but no matter how much I wanted to shield those masterpieces, a lot of new players on Roblox probably don't find the enjoyment from it, whether it's the difficulty or the art direction that doesn't suit them at all, or language barrier. But your game, it's so simple. Have you ever thought of doing something that you love? Make a game that you really enjoy so much as a kid? Because I really don't believe you play Pet Simulator X on a daily basis. Because from my standpoint, Preston here has been just doing it for money. I mean, everybody does, but just not this apparent. Ever since he left Pet Simulator 2, he ran away because his game wasn't successful. There are a lot of backlog games that were also abandoned because it also wasn't successful. Build and Survive, Disaster Dome, and the rest, and they all had potential. It's just that, who cares? It doesn't make money anymore. And that's the mentality that I believe Preston inherits. A game that really doesn't need any sequel just suddenly has a sequel that ties to nothing. Oh wait. Forgot about the game. Yeah, the game is the same. You got gold pets, white pets, a lot of massive worlds, some power-ups. Let's not ignore the fact the insane microtransactions that Preston is charging kids for, a lot of eggs, enhancing your pets, a door that leads to hardcore mode, yada yada. Anyway, your favorite part, drama. Back then, there's a controversy at the time when NFT was a thing. You know, the non-functioning token. It was quite big back then. And the funny thing is that Preston actually broke a rule this time around. On November 9th, 2021, Preston announced a new NFT project on an OpenSea website. It's basically you get a limited edition Pegasus, and there are only 12 of them that exist within the game. People were outraged on Twitter to the point of contacting Roblox about it and notifying them about the off-platform sale. The rules in question were discussed in terms of use. You cannot sell, trade, or give away Robux, digital goods, or game codes except through official channels on Roblox platform, and prohibiting any sales from third parties or other websites. Preston denies this by saying that this rule only applies to the black market, anyone that's selling the limiteds for real money. I wonder what this digital goods means. During the backlash, Preston also stated that he didn't think from the morality in mind, thought that the whole tech is cool. Fortunately, people didn't buy his excuse and saw through his lies, and the backlash pretty much gotten worse. With Preston backing down and having no choice, he decided to donate 25,000 to Team C's during the Mr. Beast campaign. It received mixed reception. People praise him for helping the environment, while the others see this donation as a way to quench the backlash that he's been receiving. And Preston especially doesn't even try to respond back against the hate. Big games, however, make their profit from selling their assets from NFT, until Shetletsky starts pointing out how much the NFT were sold, and then the community took a notice on it, which prompted more backlash, and a lot of YouTubers start talking about it. Even the guy, I'm not gonna talk about him. Despite big games having made profit from the NFT, the people who paid for it got it refunded in Ethereum, and as for the pets, they got to keep it. Roblox admitted that they barely monitor anything outside the platform, but what I think they are saying is that Preston is a valuable asset, and we apologize that you think this way. And then slapped new rules in the community standards prohibiting sales off platform within experience, and then 3 years later they changed it again. Also, Pet Simulator X gained an additional 2,239 dislikes after the NFT announcement. There's also a plushie where Preston used to sell it around for 70 bucks or less. One of the first plushie is the giant cat from Pet Simulator 1, and another one is Pet Simulator X, which is also a giant cat. And let me tell you, those also include the code, and now Preston is selling those at extremely marked up prices. So I don't know what you guys will think about this. On April 15, 2023, Preston teased Diamond Mine update where people can actually get a lot of diamonds in the game. From what I've seen, people seem to struggle to grind for diamonds as there are not many good methods to grind more diamonds. There's this feature called bank interest. Essentially, you can bank or deposit your pets in exchange for diamond interest. The more you deposit your pets, the more you can get diamonds every day. So you can also invite your trusted friends to help deposit more pets into the storage to get a lot of diamonds. It's not a bad method to get diamonds. While technically it isn't, it's also expensive. Anyone who doesn't have that diamonds or friends to begin with could use the bank interest to the fullest potential. And so when this teaser came out, a lot of people were praising it, saying it as free to play time. People actually think that the free to play is gonna get something good, which, you know, doesn't seem like Preston's behavior, and they didn't have to wait for long. And finally, the update was released on the same date, and a lot of people weren't happy about it. Wanna know why? In order to enter the diamond mine, you have to pay the subsequent price of entry until you finally unlock the mystic cave. Once you unlock these 2 caves, the game eventually asks you to reach a specific level, and then you need to sacrifice a pet, primarily a huge pet. Any other pets will not work, which in turn locking out any free-to-play players that didn't have any extremely rare pets. For some reason, if you're on a private server, you cannot interact in diamond mine unless you're an owner, VIP, or premium user. Despite people having sacrificed one of the huge pets, the reward was abysmal because the reward wasn't any different from obtaining it in the overworld. Remember the bank interest that I've mentioned before? It's gone. You're not getting the interest back anymore. The comet diamond rewards were also nerfed. People were extremely mad, to the point where players started spamming on the official Discord server and the moderator had to lock it down to control their player base. There were many angry players demanding refunds or bringing back some of the stuff that were removed. President sought to articulate his thought and responds with, by literally calling the majority of his player out, that the free-to-play are the most entitled with the laughing emojis. Person tries to defuse it by attempting to understand the player frustration while acting sentimental. However, the backlash is pretty immense from the community, and so this is how the community responded. After that, they finally buffed the diamond reward. There's also this massive controversy within Twitter where President is abusing DMCA on any game that uses the block pet. People point out that Pet Simulator was not the first game that uses the block pet. The game is question is Roblox Mining Simulator, which are now called Mining Simulator. The game released a pet update, which you can see the blocky pet in question on March 5th, 2018, while Pet Simulator released on April 7th, 2018, which is 1 month later after the pet update was released. The reason why President wants to DMCA a lot of this game is because most of these games that President have DMCA'd were using or profiting off using his rights, which makes sense. But the problem arises when President says the following: they aren't doing it for fun, it's purely profit driven, made to compete against us and nothing in between. And if you don't know already, President hates any game that uses the blocky pet or have a small semblance as Pet Simulator. To top it off, despite President saying that he DMCA's any game that copied his works, there's also a free open source model that people can actually use, but the creator and the people that uses it get a DMCA, which causes a stir within the community to the point where they're making fun of President for doing DMCA. Coilist, or Josh, who is associated with big games, defended it by making a meme format showing the pets that are lookalikes. Schlapp argued about it and showing a detailed comparison of the pets side by side, and then starting a trend called boycott big games. There's this one person that made a game called Axolotl Tycoon. The person literally got a DMCA for literally an icon and thumbnail, and person gave a reason on it, which, okay, understandable, and then showed another picture which I assume related to the game. The original poster said that he used the first one a year ago, which already got deleted, and then the second one, which is from another game. Well, the third one is definitely not from Axolotl Tycoon. And then person responded with, if you believe yourself, then file a counterclaim, which the original poster stated, I'm 17. It really puts into question his DMCA whether person did it out of malice or not. If anything, you can argue that this falls under Antitrust Sermon Act Section 2 for admitting and removing any competitor that tries to compete Pet Simulator. And honestly, this really paints Preston in a bad light, and Preston wants to monopolize this blocky pet, similar to when the Fine Bros wanted to monopolize the React genre, which leads to another problem where people point out his game using some of the references such as the Lucky Block or Eat a Friend. There's a Twitter account that's only dedicated to post leak updates that were approved by big games, but suddenly the owner of the account got a cease and desist and possibly a lawsuit in which Preston or big games themselves filed on this person. The victim already contacted big games on why this is happening. Upon contact, the guy on one of the screenshots says, why did you not tell me to stop? While Putty, who's associated with big games, messaged back saying, I didn't care, which is irresponsible. And honestly, after reading a lot of these, I'm actually starting to lose hope for big games. It really fills out my discontent. What's weird is that this is the same guy who made a fake lawsuit for an April Fool's joke, and then suddenly the guy got a real lawsuit, which is, I don't know what you will make out of this. Alright, so this one is actually big. Probably the biggest reason why I haven't uploaded in a while, and this one is about Bespoke Plush, which you guys probably know a lot about. Bespoke Plush used to work with Preston, got them defrauded by Preston himself, and his team made some racist remarks by his contact. Allegedly, because this whole thing is such a mess. I kinda wanna believe in Bespoke Plush, and at the same time, I don't wanna believe in Preston either after the last major controversies. So there's this video from Bespoke Plush themselves with the title "Big Games Defraud Us for $480,000. Krishna Chaitanya, is the founder of My Plush Toy and Bespoke Plush. In October 2022, Big Games, who handle expertise, approached Bespoke Plush to make Titanic samples to be made, and they've been working for 8 months until June 2nd, 2023. They've been making 195 samples with different iterations and plushies, and Preston didn't pay for the samples. Instead, Bespoke Plush paid for them themselves. 100 stickers hologram of samples and the packaging with their brand, dyes, etc., which all never been paid. Even the fabric for many designs that still haven't got paid. And suddenly, the team went MIA. They tried to get any response from their social media, but were never reached out. There's this guy who called Spiffy, who I assume is the expertise in question, and just made this racist remarks.
For the kind of amount we're paying, you guys should shine my shoe and cook for my entire life.
And despite all that incident, their company is definitely facing big losses. 120 employees, 25 admin teams will soon be out of job due to insufficient funds that the money still haven't got paid yet. Chris already started the lawsuit, which is a criminal complaint, and has already been launched and has been acknowledged by the police.
But there's going to be a lawsuit. There is already a criminal complaint that has been lodged and acknowledged by the police. So to give you an idea, criminal case here for intent to cheat or cheating is on par with defrauding someone, and that's a class A felony. Complaints been filed against the merchant charge, Big Games LLC, the company, and the owner of the company, Preston. Now, my only aim, there is going to be a lawsuit for all damages and the amount they're supposed to pay us. There is already a criminal complaint that's been filed, and the police department, all the evidence has been given to them. The police department is going to investigate.
In the meantime, Preston also got the attention of the complaint that people have been calling him out for defrauding the company. Preston accuses them for stealing $500,000 and pretty much received nothing from them at all, and calls them out, saying that they're lying and a criminal, and the lawsuit they're filing from us is not in the US court, and then saying witch hunt needs to stop. Preston says that he's been working with our reputable partners for the last 5 months, and stating that they do not want to do anything with Bespoke Plush. However, on Twitter, on Bespoke Plush account, they've been leaking the emails that they used to send to, and one of the highlights is that there's a message here saying, "We do not mind releasing all Titanic and companion codes for free on the web," which is literally attempting to extort, which doesn't make things way better. And then Bespoke Plush released a video about Chris talking to Spiffy on the phone, which was basically wiretapping. Big Games actually paid for them for a grand total of $560,521.
I mean, if you can put a price on all the fabric that's dead stock, and then send it in an email. Basically, all the fabric that, we paid $560,000. I'm gonna need you to tell me how much fabric, was part of that $560,000.
Spiffy also has the invoice that were given from them, and basically they want their money back, but doesn't have to be all the money.
I have the invoice right in front of me. It's invoice number 2004. We already paid for everything.
Wait, so they have invoices? Why didn't Preston show the invoices? You can just blow out the credentials and show the receipt. Fortunately, Bespoke Plush actually pulled up the receipt and posted them online, but then later someone tries to debunk it and point out some of the errors in the receipt, as if a scammer tries to pull a scam here. I'm not gonna go full detective. I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody. I just want to cover this on both sides. Chris counters by saying that he's been purchasing production machines such as sewing machine and laser machine, and has been telling them about it in the process.
But how is it possible? How
why you can't? We want the money back.
No, but how? How is that possible? Because it's all sitting in raw materials, right? There is Recron, there is applique work that happens, there is more cutting machines that have been laser machines that have been purchased, sewing machines that have been added, right? Specific to this order, and every time that was being done, I let you know.
Now, I actually don't understand why Chris purchased some of the laser and sewing machines, but I will assume that it's in the contract. You need the necessary equipment to make a plushie or something along like that. One of the weird highlight is that Spiffy calls the plushie smell. Like, what kind of smell? Now, my prediction here is because of the dye. I actually do not know what kind of dye they use, but I'm gonna assume that the dyeing process were rushed, which could be the reason why it smelled when it shouldn't.
Pink balloon cats were not smelling. Please be honest. I mean, if it was some other reason, you don't have to give me the reason, sir. But please tell me at least it's not the smell, please.
It is the smell. We literally, Preston, the CEO of the company, just opened it up a couple minutes ago. Every single one smells off. I mean, we can't sell that product. That product can't be sellable. If we're paying for that, we shouldn't be, because that is not a product. We didn't pay for that. So I mean, at the end of the day, we paid for a bulk order. We didn't get the bulk order, and on top of that, like, we tried our.
That's because you're pulling out. That's because you're pulling out.
Now, I don't know anything about plushie being smell and stuff. Even I saw some of the comment section agree. People that purchase it from them have commented there's no weird smell in it. Maybe some of them, but what's going on? Because of that reason, Big Games doesn't want to sell it because the product doesn't meet their expectation. I mean, the smell. Spiffy vaguely giving the reason. I think I understand how this whole problem began. In a nutshell, Bespoke Plush and Big Games agreed to the contract and have paid around $560,000. Some of the product is completed and ready to be shipped, and once it's shipped, Big Games just say no. It smell, we're pulling out, also we want the money back. And because of that, Bespoke Plush doesn't get paid on terms that were agreed on, therefore some of the materials that were in preparation are never going to be made. Bespoke Plush agreed to send all the materials to Big Games because essentially they have no use for these materials and they're losing money.
Yes, sir. You please take the fabric. Fine. I will send Recron every single thing. Even if it's a needle that belongs to Big Games, I'll send it over. I don't need it.
Well, I don't think they want to send the materials because that would be stupid. So I'm sure you know why they want to go after the lawsuit. And then there's this part where Chris loses $280,000 from his own pocket. I don't even know how did that happen, but the further I delve into, I think I should stop before I start saying something wrong. There is more into this. Allegedly, Bespoke Plush was threatened by hitman goons that were hired by Big Games. Crazy, right? Chris managed to record the whole of it, but most of the time, I don't understand what the caller is saying.
So, were you instructed by Big Games Management LLC to talk like that?
Hello. I wanted to record a message for you.
There's a video of 1 hour talking to the lawyer. I think I'm done with the saga. Bespoke actually did sell the plush without the acknowledgement from Big Games, which is good for them since they need to recoup all their losses. The best part about it is that Bespoke Plush actually sniped the price of the merch from $249, which is similar to the price from Big Games, to only $60. I don't think it's gonna get anywhere. Honestly, this is the part where the video ends, but then Preston released 2 new games and now I have to cram them in. Let's get this done with. So the game starts off with 3 basic weapons, ranging from medium range to long range, compared to the first game where you start out with a pistol. However, in the shop, you no longer buy any specific unique weapons anymore, and now it is replaced with the loot box. Classic Big Games. In terms of gameplay, everything here is what I've said earlier. The only difference is the HUD. It definitely looked cooler and less modernized due to the fact that the developer uses paint strokes as a background. Now that's Big Paintball 2. The only additional feature that the developer implement is the enemy highlight. It's really helpful to determine your enemy, especially for people with poor eyesight. But is this really what Big Paintball 2 offers? And that is all for Big Paintball 2. It wasn't any different. It really doesn't need a sequel, but Big Games being Big Games. Pet Simulator 99. Oh god, it's a 4 installment of the same game.
Wait, there's lots of other characters if you don't like the Pixie Sorcerer.
No, there aren't. They're all just the same with different costumes.
Right, so the premise of the game followed the same structure as the previous entry. Instead of collecting manually, you now collect automatically, which is one of the heavily requested features. So, the game is much more free to play now. I admit, the game is addictive at all times. I think that's just Preston putting one of the best sound effects in his library. Again, you don't do much in this game. The strategy revolves around it is still the same. Get enough money and get the best pet possible. Despite the previous entry hardly having an objective at all, the game gives you a rank system where you can complete quests to unlock cool stuff. I feel like this game is a love letter to the fans of the series, but I'll just keep my eye open. You can never trust this guy with his insane prior history. You can also enter some obstacle courses or the puzzle from Payday 2. Completing them gives you some items. You can also win the pets, but hey. You can also equip the enchant to gain more boost, I guess. A lot of free stuff, and that is all the game. Oh yeah, while editing, I forgot to list off Preston's greed, and that is really all. Alright, I know there are some more dramas beyond Pet Simulator 99 where the developer literally give one of the rarest pets to the guy that is literally exploiting in the game, and so many things that's not even worth mentioning. As I was about to end this video, literally Bespoke Plush announced that there was a warrant arrest for Preston and Spiffy in India, and the report found there was an intention to cheat was to be true. Preston and Spiffy have been booked under non-bailable offense, which means they can't just pay their way out of this. And the reason why Preston gets a warrant for arrest is because Preston has been ignoring all the inquiries from the authorities in India that have been sent. Relatively, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Either India gonna ask the US authorities to arrest Preston and escort to India to be locked behind the bars, or nothing happens at all, that Preston won't be able to set foot in India for the rest of his life, now that he's becoming a wanted man for life.
Listen, it's a manhunt, and they won't stop until we're both dead.
There's one guy on Twitter who said that Bespoke Plush should file a warrant in Texas, which, you know, would make sense. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have much information about this topic. And then Taz D, following some of the stuff that I've said earlier, he said that Preston no longer be able to travel to India anymore due to international arrest warrant. He will have to avoid getting arrested again, even for a slight single infraction. In Clash Royale term, that's the equivalent of sudden death. If any person's tower got destroyed during the sudden death, he will automatically lose, because the person in charge will look into it and said, oh hey, this guy has an international arrest warrant in India, and then Preston get trial in America, and then get trial in India, and then goes to jail. That's it. But once again, he's not a lawyer, so take it with a grain of salt. Hey y'all, thank you guys so much for watching. 10k subs in my long absence, which is crazy. Really sorry it took you guys this long. I'm open to suggestions in the comment section if anyone wants me to take a look at it. I have Patreon if anyone really cares about it. Again, these two lads have supported me for a lot of years. I'm literally back and just gonna start yapping my videos now. I probably plan long videos, and usually this type of videos takes very long since I'm like a one-man army. And no, I am not looking for anyone. I think I just want to keep it that way. So yeah, like this video, subscribe, share. You will see those buttons below whenever I said that in the video, so I think that's cool. And yeah, that's it. See you guys in the next video. I don't know, but Pet Simulator fans are like Sisyphus,
a visitor.
Each time the boulder goes down, there's a new game, and the fans will run back and repeat the same process over and over again. Despite the owner being incredibly abusive, Pet Simulator fans will be happily pushing the boulders to the top no matter what. I guess you can say one must imagine Pet Simulator fans happy